time.
Well, hey, it's good practice.
We're just jumping in now. Yeah.
All right, I like it.
Oh, what a shaky
Well,
start.
hey, you know what? We talked a lot about ourselves, so maybe
Yeah.
we start. Let's. Well, we haven't really talked about you. Do you want to do a rundown through yours?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So I went into this draft really unsure whether or not I wanted to run a 3-4 or 4-3.
Oh,
I'm still
interesting.
undecided. It was kind of
Okay.
gonna depend on what my roster looked like going into the season. So basically, what I wanted to do was build versatility.
Yeah.
So that maybe I can run a little bit of both if we get into the
Mhm.
season and we're watching teams play and I'm seeing like 3-4 defenses are just dominating. I could switch
Mhm.
to a 3-4 if I need to, or vice versa.
Mhm.
Um,
I like
and
that.
one thing I've noticed with Madden that the game doesn't do well, especially in a 3-4, is like Kyle Van Noy was one of my 3-4 outside linebackers coming into this draft. And
Right.
like he's okay as like a power pass rusher, but
Yeah.
if that dude gets caught out in coverage, it's going to be a big play. He's going to get cooked.
Yeah. Totally.
So a lot of times I like to take maybe linebackers that are better fit in a 4-3 in real life,
Mhm.
but also have some pass rushing ability. And I'll move
Mhm.
those guys to the outsides in a 3-4 defense.
Who's a player you think of like that? Like, would you
Oh, there's
say Khalil Mack? I
Khal-
don't think he's as good at coverage, but
yeah, no, Khalil Mack is kind of a standard 3-4 outside
yeah,
linebacker. Like
okay, that's fair.
there's I think like the super example is Micah Parsons.
That's what I was just gonna say. Yeah,
Yeah,
Micah. Yeah, I
because
see that. So you're
I
trying
mean
to
that.
take guys that you can either, and this is totally how you play Madden too. Like,
Yeah,
I either want to be rushing with you or blitzing with you or
yeah,
faking it and covering or something like
right.
that.
And I've used a few different players to kind of test this out over the past couple
Yeah.
of years, and I've liked the way it plays. And the Bucks have one of these guys. What is his name? Servatier Dennis, the
Mhm.
linebacker from Pitt. He works
Yeah.
well. And I've actually got one of these guys already on my roster, Trenton Simpson.
Yes,
Um, he,
absolutely.
he got hurt last year for the Ravens, didn't get to play all that much. But when
Rookie
I've used
last
him
year
in
though, right?
Madden, he's one of those guys you can move to
Yeah.
the outside, and he's got pass rush ability, but he's got enough speed and coverage ability too that if he does get stuck out in
Yeah.
coverage, you're not going to get
Where
killed.
where'd he come out of? Clemson?
Clemson,
Clemson?
yeah, he's
Yeah.
Clemson.
Yeah. Interesting. I
So,
love that.
so I mean,
Who'd you
we
take in linebacker, or who'd you take in this draft that you felt like was that?
So I took first linebacker I took was Cody Simon out of Ohio State at pick 109.
Yeah, I like that.
I
So is
don't
that
know
third round, fourth round,
fourth round.
fourth round? Okay.
Yep. I didn't have any third round picks after I traded up for Darius Alexander.
Oh yeah,
But
sure.
Simon I don't necessarily see as that type of player. I think he's more of just kind of your standard off-ball linebacker, inside linebacker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But if I'm playing a 3-4 and I move Trenton Simpson to the outside, I need someone to play next to Roquan Smith. So like
yeah.
I kind of saw Cody Simon filling that role. And later on I took Chris Paul Jr. out of Old Miss.
Mm, sure.
And I thought maybe there's a chance that he can fill that role. He's definitely undersized, but he has
Yeah.
good athleticism and instincts.
Hmm.
I figured between one of those two guys,
Yeah.
I could probably play somebody out there and be okay.
Right.
I also drafted edge rusher Elijah Roberts from SMU.
That one. I don't know much about
I
Roberts.
I liked him quite a bit as like a pure pass rusher and like a
Just
power
like, does he
rusher.
have some length? What's his?
Yeah. Let me pull him up real quick.
While you're doing that, I was listening to the Athletic show here recently, and
Yeah,
their thing on the Ravens was really interesting about like how some of the safety pickups they've had is really going to open
yeah.
and stuff. I feel like your pick
Does the
totally
same
sets
thing.
you up to do that
Yeah,
same sort
the
of thing.
same
Same thing
thing.
you're talking about, having a defense that's super versatile, can hit you from a lot of different ways.
Yep. Yeah, Mubaka is fantastic in coverage.
Yeah.
Um, by the way, we talked about this before the stream started, but I took him at the 59 pick, and like my thought process was, with two high safeties on the
Hmm.
field, I'll play them both.
Yeah.
But in other formations, I'm probably going to move Ubaka down to play the slot and just play slot corner.
Nice.
He's got
Yeah.
that much athleticism, that much skill. Um,
I think at one point in the off season we were doing mocks. I think we had Mubaka going even in the first round
yeah,
for
I think
sure,
so. Yeah,
didn't we?
yeah.
Absolutely, not later, but early.
All right, so Roberts is more of like a 3-4 defensive end.
Nice. So
Um,
that works perfectly.
Even if I play 4-3, he's got enough versatility
Hmm.
to where he can play on the outside
Yeah,
and also shift to the inside in pass
yeah.
rush situations. But
If there's anything that kept the Ravens, in my opinion, out
mm,
of the Super Bowl and losing to the Chiefs, and I think it's the same thing for Baltimore that it was for Buffalo. It was like, what's the one thing that Philadelphia had that those teams didn't? And that's just a massive defensive line.
yeah,
Like, the Bills didn't really strike a lot of fear in you. Von
yeah,
Miller never really came to play. The Ravens just haven't had that DL piece. Like, that guy from Michigan hasn't really ever showed up. Like, they've
yeah,
done a lot of good tries, but nothing's like really taken. Not to the point, like, to the point where they're an excellent team, but we're talking about like a team that can just wreck it, right? And
right.
that seems to be what beats the Chiefs, obviously,
Mhm.
and I think that you nailed it by getting someone like Darius Alexander, getting some guys on the
Yeah,
line, beefing up that linebacker. Like that's what they need. They really need that defense to be stalwart.
yeah, they do. They do. Um, it's one of those things where, like, I think really since Clowney left,
Yeah, great
like
call.
they've kind of struggled finding pass rush,
Hmm.
and I mean the weird thing about that is like Clowney is not a guy who really gets a lot of sacks,
No,
but he
he's
does he
not.
does have like a lot of QB pressures, and
Yeah,
even
and he
even
takes attention. He takes
yeah,
attention.
and my wife is a huge Ravens fan. That's why I
Yeah,
picked the
right,
Ravens in this. Like I watch them every week, and
right.
I remember watching him and really appreciating how good of a player he is, even though like I think for a lot of people he hasn't really lived up to his draft hype and his draft
Yeah,
status,
I
but
hear you.
that guy showed up everywhere. And like I felt like they really missed that last year. They
Yeah, same with Ndamukong Suh, like, towards the end of his career. Like,
yeah,
he wasn't, like, the same Pro Bowl I don't know
yeah,
if that means anything, but, like, like, all these things, but he was still filling up a lot of space. He was
yeah,
still on, like, really good teams. He was on that Eagles team that played the Chiefs and lost, like, he was obviously on the Bucks when they won. Like, he's those pieces where you're huge, you're still playing a huge role, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're gonna stick with my team for just a tiny bit longer before
Yeah.
we move on. I know you watch a lot of the Chiefs, right?
I
Where
do,
you're at.
yeah. Yeah.
I took Jalen Royals at
I
129.
loved it,
Yeah.
which was fairly close to where he was in real life too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I'll tell
Yeah,
you what, like I was not in on Jalen Royals at any part of this process,
sure.
really up until I saw Kansas City take him in the draft. And I was
And
like,
then and then
let
it's
me
like,
take
whoa.
let me take another look at this guy. And then
Right,
I kind
right.
of talked myself into it. And I was like, man, they need receivers. Like if this guy
Yeah,
plays for them, Like,
Yeah,
he's a guy that I
he
could see
must love it.
blowing up and being a good
You
receiver for
know,
me.
Stock Exchange liked him, that podcast.
They did, yeah.
I always, I guess what I always when they Chiefs drafted him, I was like, okay. I mean, they drafted another speed guy with reliable hands. That's a good route runner.
Right.
Like not expected to be Randy Moss. If anything, it's like they kind of drafted a clone of Rasheed Rice, in my opinion. But
Yeah, yeah,
that's a good clone though, right?
yeah.
Like,
It is.
and this was such a weird draft when it came to receivers, in my opinion.
It
Like,
wasn't a very good draft for
right?
receivers. It wasn't,
Even like
yeah.
the top one, like people just didn't love McMillan, or they did. I don't
Yeah.
know. It wasn't like
It was
Marvin
split.
Harrison Jr. the year
Yeah,
before, or Neighbors. Like people were like totally high on them, right? And even
yeah,
Odunze. But there just wasn't that. In fact, tight ends really stole the show, it seems like. And then, I mean, obviously, and we'll talk about some of the other picks that users had. I felt like people did really good with wide receivers.
yeah.
Actually, I don't feel like anyone reached on a wide receiver.
No, no.
So you took Royals, and then round out your. Tell us more the rest of your
Alright,
draft. Who
so
you really, yeah,
we we've talked about everything so far. So at 27, I took Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman.
yeah,
59, Makuba, the safety from Texas. 62, Darius Alexander, defensive tackle. 109,
yep,
linebacker Cody Simon from Ohio State. At 129, Jalen Royals. 158 was Elijah Roberts. 176, I took Chris Paul Jr., the linebacker from Ole
hmm,
Miss. 199, I took running back Devin Neal from Kansas.
yeah. You were pumped about that too. He's a
I
big guy, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Powerful runner. Decent
Hard to go
speed
wrong.
for his size.
Yeah.
I he was another guy. Let's see, where did he wind up in real life? Let me take a look.
Ooh, where did Neil go?
But he was another guy that I remember looking at and thinking like, I think he's gonna. Oh, the Saints.
The
So, so,
Saints.
so he was another guy that I looked at,
Yeah.
kind of like Royals, and I was like, "There's something there. I think there's a chance
Yeah.
this dude can play,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's going to a place where I think there's going to be opportunity."
Yeah.
Um, and again, since we're not using the in-game progression system in Madden, we're
Yeah.
using their real life ratings coming into each season.
Right.
I was like, this is a guy that I get in the late rounds that I could see in a year or two being like an 80 to 85 overall player if he grabs the starting role.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah. And with my last pick, I took the kicker from Miami, Andres Borregales.
Yeah, I saw that you took kicker. I was like,
Yeah,
sweet.
I got to replace Justin
Justin
Tucker.
Justin Tucker.
Yeah, I've got no room for that on my team.
Fair enough.
um,
I thought it was a great draft. I thought you did really well. I think you hit all the things you needed. You also drafted way later than everybody else. I mean,
yeah,
you because you have the best team by far. So I mean,
yeah,
you're
I've
kind
I've
of
got a
seeing
good
it that
roster
way. But
coming into this first season, and it was
yeah.
it was one of those things where like I wasn't super excited about taking Gray Zabel,
Yeah,
but all of the
I think you
really
need to.
yeah all of the high end impact
Yeah,
talent was just gone by pick 27.
yeah.
So I was like,
Who
what's
did
the
Ravens take in real life? Mike Green? Did they take Mike Green the
they
first
they
round?
did take Mike Green, but they didn't take him till like late second round. He dropped on everybody's boards
Wow,
because
that
of
is
all
so
the
crazy.
there's like I think at least a couple sexual assault allegations against him. So
Oh,
teams
really?
teams
Okay,
just
interesting.
yeah, he dropped
Yeah,
like a
that's
rock.
fair. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Huh. Good draft.
yeah.
One of the other teams. Who
All
do you
right.
want to talk about?
Let's stick in the AFC. We'll talk
I
about
love it.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Cincinnati is owned by my friend Charlie Berkeley. I think this is the first time, maybe in any of our Madden franchises, that somebody has used the Bengals. Let's see. You still there, Nathan?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
I liked overall that they went defense pretty heavy with the
Yeah.
draft. You know, I just think that that was such an important thing. I don't even really feel like real life Cincinnati did that great a job going defense, but
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like, uh, I liked this draft for that. I thought the Pierce wasn't my favorite pick, but at the same time, that's who was there. Like,
Yeah.
right? I don't
Yeah.
think that there was anyone else available at that point. It's another reason why I took 2 defensive tackles with the Bears,
Right.
you know, interesting that he went with Pierce. I assume he's gonna keep Hendrickson on the roster,
Oh, I
right?
would assume so. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where, like, I think he's probably praying at this point that they don't trade him before the season starts.
Is he a real life Cincinnati fan?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. He's a real life Bengals fan.
Fascinating.
See, I think I was probably higher on Pierce than you were then, because like
Oh, really?
I really liked Pierce as a pure
He
pass
just like
rusher.
his like bendability to get around the corner. He just seems a little
Oh yeah.
light to me for the NFL. But
Ye- I could see that. Like I could see the argument that maybe he needs to add a little bit of strength. Um Maybe for that reason, I don't think maybe he's the best fit in like a 4-3 defense, but as a 3-4 outside
sure.
linebacker, almost as a little bit of like a beefed up
Yeah.
Micah Parsons. I mean, I think
I
he's
mean, I
got
like that
an
comp.
elite athleticism.
I
I
think if you put someone that athletic across from Trey Hendrickson, you're gonna get to the quarterback, and
Yeah,
that's awesome.
and it's one of those things where like I think Cincinnati plays a 4-3. I'm not sure whether Charlie's going to stick with a 4-3 or 3-4. I think in Madden, you can get away with playing a guy who's on the
Mhm.
lighter side in a 4-3 defensive end role. I think Pierce would be fine either in a as a 3-4 outside linebacker or a 4-3
Right,
defensive end of Madden. I don't think it really
right,
matters.
right.
Um, but yeah, I actually really like that pick. Pierce was
Mhm.
somebody that I would have absolutely taken if he was there at my pick.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like I said, I love the D. I mean, you could have thrown
Oh
anyone
yeah,
at the board, and I would have been like, "Nice pick," you
it
know?
was
Uh, yeah.
it was a
Who'd they take
monster need.
Absolutely. Who'd they take next? Was it
They went guard,
guard
offensive guard Tate
with
Ratledge from
Rutledge or
Georgia. Yeah,
Rutledge? Yeah.
yeah,
See, I love that guy. I
yeah,
just you look at his specs, this huge freaking guy from Georgia. I
yeah,
mean, why would you not want that? Seems
yeah,
like those guys have a really good history of doing well in the NFL. So I love that pick too. I think that anybody that has a guy named Joe Burrow need to protect him
yeah, oh, yeah,
and you know and also, I mean, I think one thing that's low key Cincinnati is that their run game has always been pretty dang good, no matter who they put back there, right? And
right,
you got to protect what you're good at. So I love that pick. I thought that was a great pick.
yeah. Um, and then at 81 and 119, he went back to back Notre Dame defensive players. He went linebacker Jack Kaiser
There you go.
and
I
defensive
saw that.
tackle
Yeah.
Riley Mills.
You know, I know both names. Kaiser, I would mock a lot. Usually a
Yeah,
little further back than that, because for me, to get a Notre Dame player, they have to be a super big value.
mhm,
I'm just kidding.
yeah,
But, Mills, I don't know a lot about Mills, but, I mean, once again, talking about a really good defensive tackle class, not bad to add depth in those
yeah,
positions. Once again, he's drafting frickin' defenders, and that's exactly what he needs, right?
yeah. You're basically just throwing darts at this point. You need to throw
Absolutely.
as many defensive players out there as you can and
Yeah.
hope some of them stick.
And you know, I think linebackers have been a little bit undervalued lately in the
Mhm.
NFL. Like I think we've seen a lot of good guys that have like been drafted really late, like Josie Jewell kind of comes to mind.
Yeah.
You know, Jay Higgin was that this year or last year? But
Higgins was this year. He went
yeah,
undrafted.
he did go undrafted. That's
He
wild
went
to me.
he went at the very end of our draft. He went
Yeah,
undrafted in real life, which was crazy to me.
yeah. I would love to get in the ear of a scout or something and just really ask, "So why, like, do you make these decisions? Why this or that?" Or whoever does
Yeah,
in these organizations. So it'd be really interesting to see what actually moves the
yeah.
needle or doesn't. But, I like these moves. Who'd they
Mhm.
take after that?
Jordan Hancock, cornerback
Yeah,
out of Ohio State at 153.
I like that pick. That's a good value pick.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty solid zone corner. I think he'll be fine.
Absolutely. And once
Uh,
again, I don't think we caught this earlier, but, like, when you can draft players that played a specific role on a successful team, like the national champions,
yeah,
like, you're doing your team a favor. You're
yeah,
bringing someone in that can play within high level systems, and the game's going to respect that to a certain level too.
yeah. And then with their last pick, Charlie took running back Taj Brooks from Texas Tech,
Nice.
which I mean, it's not. I mean, Cincinnati just has a lot of needs, honestly,
Yeah,
and
they do.
I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for any
They
running
are
back to emerge in that
really
league.
financially handcuffed to their wide receiver core, and which whatever. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, especially Jamar Chase, I'd pay him anything.
Oh yeah, whatever he
I
wants.
was I was a little surprised that they went with Higgins before like locking up Hendrickson. It'll be interesting to see where this user goes with that. Does he really try and stick with that? Does he try
Yeah,
and flip Higgins to get a little more depth? Because if there is one thing, it's not just defense, it's kind of depth in general. I think that this draft really addresses as much depth as he could within the draft, though.
yeah.
What did you think overall?
I thought this was a pretty strong draft. I gave Charlie a B plus for this draft.
Yeah, nice.
I
I like
thought with
that.
with quite a few needs and only six
Mhm.
picks, I think he did a pretty good job at hitting the biggest needs for the Bengals.
Yeah,
And
I
if
agree.
two or three of these guys turn into solid starters, I mean, I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, yeah, and no one that you're like, I mean, no one that it's like, "Oh, he picked this guy, but he coulda gotten this guy," It's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
those make sense." Like,
I was that was like kind of a theme throughout for
I
the
agree.
the user picks in this draft is I don't think anybody had a bad pick.
No,
There was
no.
nobody that I looked at and was like, I wouldn't have touched that guy, but whatever, you do
Yeah,
you.
totally. Right, right. No, I hear you, 100%. No, I agree with that.
um,
Cincinnati Bengals playing the Ravens. That would be fun. I'm
yeah,
excited.
and we transitioned. We've also got the Cleveland Browns as a user team in this league. Three
Hey,
user teams in one division. It's going to be
favorite
competitive.
pick, my number 1 pick, obviously, Travis Hunter. Number 5 for
How?
the Browns. I was
Yeah,
like, so he's gonna have all that draft capital.
yeah,
He's got Travis Hunter, which will be fun to watch how that plays out. Is he
yeah.
gonna play him on both sides? Can he even do that in the game? That'll be fun to
I
see.
mean, yeah, I don't even know what that's going to look like
Right,
yet,
right.
but I mean,
Better be
getting
both
Travis
sides.
Hunter at
That'd be great.
5 is crazy.
I know. So, I mean, right away, it was like, well, this is a good draft.
Yeah.
What else? Who came after Travis?
He went offensive line. He had pick 33, went offensive tackle Ariate Ursary from Minnesota.
Yeah, not a sexy pick.
Mm-mm.
I so many times because I'm a Chiefs fan, so I did so many drafts for the Chiefs, and Ursary ends up on about 50% of boards just
Yeah,
because depending how you have the tackles go. Really good guy. I mean, probably about the last guy that when you talk to like analysts and stuff that thought, okay, this is probably where the starters stop
yeah,
at tackle. You know, so I thought the fact that he was able to get Travis Hunter and then come around and still get a starting tackle. I mean,
mhm,
you just address two huge needs in your
yeah,
first two picks, right?
yep.
I
Oh
love
yeah,
that.
oh yeah. And one thing I was surprised that he didn't address in this draft was quarterback. I mean, he did go.
He got Will Howard.
He got Will Howard with his last pick.
Yeah.
I'm not a Will Howard guy, but like
No. No.
I don't think that solves the situation.
No,
But
I but he can play. I mean, in the game, he'll probably be playing Deshaun. I'm guessing, or
I
is he
would
going to
guess
try and
so.
trade him?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to talk to Scott yet. I
Why
mean,
does
it's
everybody hate Pickett? Did he really suck that much? Because I guess when I watched him play at Pittsburgh, I thought he was dropping pretty good passes and stuff. I always blame Pittsburgh's problems on other Pittsburgh problems.
yeah. Yeah, Pittsburgh hasn't had a good O line. I was never a Najee
No,
Harris guy. Like, so I don't they weren't
I
doing
like
him any
him,
favors.
but
That's for sure.
no. Well, that and like sometimes people just don't fit. And they would
Yeah.
like put Warren in and get 8 yards, and then it'd be
Yeah.
back to Harris and we get two, you know. And
Right.
talking to someone that had Harris as a fantasy player that rookie year for sure, you know, it was not good. But
No.
yeah, no, I don't know. I guess I think people overplay the Browns quarterback problems. I think
Yeah.
that if they could even I I don't know, I mean, Joe Flacco's there. He's
Yeah.
won some games. I mean, I feel like they're just way they put way too much into their quarterback when they got Watson. They gave up way too much for that, and now they're just trying to put the pieces together, but they've got good pieces. They should have
Yeah.
been better last year. I think that you're right though. Like he didn't draft quarterback, but you know, he probably would have had to draft someone like right there, early second, or trade it in, right? And to be
Yeah, I
honest,
mean,
I like the Ursary pick better than I like Dart, but
yeah. I mean, Dart was gone at that point. So,
yeah,
I mean, he's picking between Shador or Tyler Shuck. Like, I
I
don't
feel like people tried to force it this year with quarterbacks. I mean, they
yeah.
didn't because no one picked him that high, but and then I don't understand why they didn't take Shador over Dart. I watched them both play in college. Dart never impressed me. I don't know. I was
Yeah.
always like, I don't know what that guy's thinking, but he was
I
throwing it.
I remember talking to you, like, probably a month or 2 before the draft
Yeah,
when Dart really started to climb up draft
yeah,
boards.
yep,
And I was like, "Man, I actually really liked Dart when he was projected to go, like, 4th or 5th round." He was a guy
yeah,
that was like,
totally.
I like that value." And then
Right.
he started getting pushed up to, like, the 2nd round, and then even, like, the 1st sometimes, and
And he did get first. He got
I don't know
traded
if I
in.
like this
Yeah.
value anymore." Like,
I
he's
don't
a
know.
good
His decision making is gonna have to make a huge leap. And granted, that's probably about every quarterback ever that goes to
yeah,
the NFL. Like obviously, he's a super young kid. I mean, you look at him, he's like, God, he's young, you know. So I never am ever trying to disparage someone, but no, wasn't the kind of guy that I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely gonna be. But you know what? I thought the same thing when the Giants drafted Daniel Jones. So
yeah. I think we're kinda jumping around a little bit here, but
yeah, we are totally, bro.
talking about Cleveland and Indianapolis both, user
Yeah.
teams,
Oh
both
yeah.
arguably with needs at quarterback,
Yep.
both waited till very late in the draft to take a quarterback in this draft, and
Who did Indianapolis take?
they took Riley Leonard.
That's what I was gonna guess.
Yeah,
Yep.
Notre Dame guy, yeah.
I will say this. I don't know why Riley Leonard gets so much less love than Ohio State guy. What am I not thinking?
Will Howard?
Howard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't understand that because I thought they were pretty equal personally. Both
Yeah,
somewhat mobile, both limited arms, but you know, like they can make it work. So
yeah.
I actually don't hate the Leonard pick. I don't hate the Howard pick either though. So
Yeah, I don't either. I actually,
I don't.
I
Yeah,
kinda liked both picks. I think at worst, I think you got a backup quarterback there.
yeah.
Um,
And not to we can go back to the Colts, but I do want to say this. If
yeah.
I was the Colts user guy, I wouldn't have gone for a different quarterback. I would 100% this first year especially be tied to Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
And
I agree
wherever
with
he
that.
goes, goes. And if Leonard has to come in and I draft really high next year, awesome. That's how I'd play it out too. So,
Yep.
well, I guess
I
he's got Daniel Jones too, maybe. So
Yeah, yeah.
there you
Yeah, I
go.
looked I kinda looked at both of these teams' drafts, and I was like, I kinda see what they're doing
Yeah,
is kinda build
yeah,
up the roster, and
right,
next year is looking like a strong quarterback draft, and I think both of them are
right.
just kinda looking towards next year saying, like, if we still need a guy, they're gonna be there next year.
Yeah, I think that's the way to
You
go.
know, there's Nussmeier, Lenora Sellers, Arch Manning, like, there's gonna be quarterbacks available.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that that'll be fun to look forward to kind of have like an eye as the season's going on, where we're setting up,
Yep.
who's, I don't think any of us will be in a position where we're so bad that we get the number one pick outright, but
Yeah.
someone will be in a position where they probably can trade up into the top three.
Yeah.
So we can always trade in Madden.
Oh, yeah, always. You can work it out. Um,
Anyone else with the Browns we need to touch on? I mean, we haven't gone through that whole. Do you want to just quickly go through the rest of that and we hit up the Colts maybe?
yeah, real quick, I'm gonna grab my laptop charger because I'm an idiot and brought my laptop out here without charging it.
Oh, no problem. I'm the one that while you're doing that, I'm gonna one thing I loved about the Browns too, while you're waiting to come back, I loved the Henderson pick. They picked Henderson, right? I have that note.
Yes, yeah, Browns took Henderson at 36. That was
I love
their
that. I think that's such a good move,
I honestly like I like Quinshawn Judkins slightly more,
which is why I
but
drafted him. But yeah,
yeah, that was a great pick by the way. But
yeah,
yeah, I think both of those guys are gonna be
yeah,
awesome.
totally.
And
And once
especially
again, what's the best way to take a
Mhm.
bad quarterback situation, put some talent at the running back position.
Yep.
You can hand it to him, you can screen it to him, you can do so many things. I
Yeah.
feel like that's one thing that even in the NFL just gets too big for players sometimes or the coaches sometimes. It's like they just forget about their running back. And go
Yeah.
no further than my team, my favorite team, the Kansas City Chiefs. If there's one thing that Patrick Mahomes doesn't do enough, just fucking throw it to the running back.
Yeah.
Like, they're not guarding him well, like
No.
and I get it, like, he's super talented, he's looking downfield to make a play, and he almost always does, but there's
Yeah.
so many times where who does that super good? Joe Burrows.
Mhm.
Fricking dumps it off at
Yeah.
exactly the right time. That's how I had P. Ryan for years, and he's back with Cincinnati,
Yeah.
has just gotten these, like, 10-yarders, and, that's one thing that I hope Mahomes can and Reed kinda hope to continue to press in. They love to do their, like, wide receiver swing arounds and all that sort of stuff, but I feel like defenses are actually kind of coming up with pretty good ways to stop that.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Let's see. Sticking with Cleveland, they took Jordan Birch, edge out of Oregon at number
That was a good
67.
pick.
I liked him quite a bit. At 94, they took linebacker Nick Martin out of Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Um, I I almost saw him as like maybe a Devin White type player.
That'd be okay.
Super athletic. I think he's probably a better blitzer than anything. As a
Mhm.
linebacker, definitely is going to have to work on coverage and run defense. But even if he's just a guy you throw in there blitz packages at this
Yeah.
point, yeah,
There's always a good linebacker coming out of Oklahoma State.
yeah,
Like, they just have a wild guy coming out of there, it seems like. So, might as well.
yeah. 126. They took safety Malachi Moore out of Alabama.
I liked that pick a
That was
lot. I
that was a
saw
good
that pick.
pick.
That was a great value pick.
Yeah, I he's another guy almost like Makuba that I took
Yeah.
where he's a good coverage safety. He's a
Mhm.
guy that you're going to be able to move around, play in the
Yep.
slot, play at free
Yep.
safety.
Played
Um,
at a decent college.
yeah, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was a good pick.
Cleveland came back at 166 and took Bilal Cohn from the Western Michigan University.
Ooh, yeah, there you go. What
Um,
position is that?
cornerback.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't know him at all. Whatever, that sounds good.
Yeah, that was honestly, like, that was probably the one pick out of this draft that from a user team that I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know if I would've taken that guy." I
yeah,
he's got he's got really good length, but,
mhm,
like, he just needs coached up, and
yeah,
maybe there's some raw skills there that you could work on the footwork and everything, but
yeah,
coming from a
absolutely.
MAC school, he's just gonna need some work.
Yeah, I agree with that.
At 192, he took Aeneas Peebles from Virginia Tech, defensive tackle.
Who's
Pissed
someone you
me
were looking at?
pissed me
Yeah,
off with that pick.
yeah.
I wanted him a lot.
Give me a quick
Um,
thing on why you wanted him. What do you like about Peebles?
so, all right, I'm gonna kind of let you in to what I look for in the draft. So
Sure.
for my first round picks and guys I'm taking high in the draft, I want to see production. I want to see them grade well, like have
Mhm.
decent PFF scores. I
Yep,
want to see if the scouts like them, and then I also
yep,
want to see combine.
yeah.
And like if I don't get those three things, it's probably not a guy that I'm going to take high. And I missed
Sure.
on some guys because of that. Like I was out on Brian Thomas last year,
Mm,
and I was
yeah,
wrong. Like he's a
yeah,
great
for
player, and
sure.
like I
Yeah,
missed on that one.
you bet.
But when you get later in the draft, I'm maybe looking for one or two of those things and hoping the third thing just doesn't matter. And with
Yeah,
Peebles, the productivity was there, the PFF grades were there, and some of the combine was there. The
yeah.
concerns were mostly about size
Mm. Is
and
he underweight or just shorter or what?
a little bit of both. A little shorter, kind of shorter
Sure.
arms, um, little bit underweight for defensive tackle would probably be better on as like an end in a 3-4 at this point.
Sure.
But the dude is super quick and is like a high motor player, is just always
Nice.
going. And I'm
That's fun.
like that's a guy that's gonna stick on a roster. Like
I
he may
agree.
never be
Yeah,
a Pro Bowl player, but like
he's gonna find a reason to stick around though.
yeah, if you're taking this guy in like the fifth or sixth round,
Mhm.
like that's a guy that might be a starter for you at some point.
Absolutely.
So,
If there's one thing I think that NFL teams do that a lot of us who are just fans and stuff don't think about, I think a lot of these later rounds, they are specifically targeting people for things like kickoff
oh
and
yeah,
special teams and
oh
stuff
yeah,
like that. Where do we sit around and think like that, right?
no,
We
no,
don't spend as
not
much
at all.
time on
Yeah,
packages and stuff like that. And I think
right.
that's one thing where the analysts just doesn't catch up with the actual
Yeah,
needs that teams are
yeah,
really targeting. But I just think about that when you talk about high motor, finding anywhere. Those are the kind of guys you want for
oh
all the
yeah,
different parts, right? Even
yeah.
if he plays a really important role on a special teams team on the line, like that's a pivotal role, right?
Mhm.
And we just don't give it enough credit sometimes.
Oh yeah. So yeah, and then Indiana Will Howard. We already talked about
Yep. Yep.
quarterback at pick 200.
National
I
champion.
honestly really liked his draft. I gave him an A
Yeah.
minus.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah,
I pretty
I
much gave everyone a B plus when I
yeah.
did it. I was like, this grading thing sucks. I gave the Browns the highest. I did.
Okay,
I did. I think I did give him an A minus. And a lot of it's because he got Travis Hunter. But
that's
you know,
unbelievable.
for reasons otherwise stated, I thought it was a good draft. Though I mean, not
Yeah,
that Cincinnati didn't do a good job. I thought Cincinnati did. I thought all the users did.
yeah,
When we get to Tampa, I think that they're the ones that have the most to talk about. But
yeah. Um, let's see.
let's do the
We got
Colts
yeah, we got one more
because we
AFC
touched
team.
on yeah. Who's the first round? He take Sander or took the tight end, right?
Yeah, Tyler Warren.
Tyler Warren.
Took the same
I
player that
liked
the
that
Colts
pick.
took in real life, yeah.
Yeah, but great pick on both sides. I mean, to me, that made a lot more sense than the Loveland to the Bears. Not that I don't think that makes sense
Mhm.
too, but I just think that especially a guy like Richardson, giving him someone to open up the middle of the field,
Oh,
really
yeah.
help on the line with a really stalwart run. Didn't he take a running back in the draft too?
Yeah, he did. He took Cam Scatabo.
Yes, in the third, right?
Yeah.
I love it. I'm really excited to see how, especially how Madden has him play a little bit. I'm excited for him in real life too,
Yeah.
though. I think the Giants took him in real life, right?
Giants took him
But
in real life.
yeah. So that'll be a fun one too. Who'd they take in the second round?
Benjamin Morrison, quarterback from Notre Dame.
Loved that. Loved
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and then we'll talk about Tampa. I absolutely loved the corner picks that Scott did with those. But it's your dad that's Tampa, right? As well.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
Tampa.
Yeah. I liked that Morrison pick. Talk about another guy that I'm excited to see how it actually plays out.
Yeah,
Who did he get drafted to in real life, Morrison?
Tampa Bay.
Oh, really? I like
Yeah,
that. That was a
yeah,
good pick by Tampa. Talk
yeah, I
about a
like
guy
that
that
pick a lot.
fell. Is he
It
Notre Dame, Morrison?
Yep, Morrison's Notre Dame, coming off a hip injury, and it's
Nice.
one of those things
Which,
where it's
yeah.
all the reports seem to be positive at this point. So,
Hmm.
like, I think as
Yeah.
long as he can stay healthy, I think he's a dude. I think
Yeah.
that's a good pick.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. So we got
Um,
them,
after
Scatabo.
after Scatabo, he went back to back linebackers. He went
Really
Barrett Carter, linebacker out of Clemson, and then Shamar James, linebacker out of Florida.
interesting.
So, Carter
Not bad.
Carter's not a bad player. He's a bit undersized,
Hmm.
which is just when you get into these mid and late rounds, a lot of
Yeah.
times that's what these guys are, and you're taking the guys
Yep.
that have some
Yep.
defects. But yeah, he's super athletic. Another guy who's a really good pass rusher from the
Hmm.
linebacker position.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna have to work on coverage if he wants to be a three down
Yeah.
player.
Just good
Uh,
depth for that middle of the
yeah,
defense too. I like
and
those picks.
same with I looked briefly at Shamar James
Mm,
for the same reasons I described earlier as a guy who has been in a middle linebacker position for his career, but
yeah.
probably would look good as like a transitioning to a 3-4 in Madden as an outside
Mm,
linebacker
yeah.
because he's got great athleticism and he's a good blitzer, but is pretty poor in coverage and just doesn't
Mm,
read plays well. Like to me,
yeah.
that guy screams, move him to 3-4 outside linebacker.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
Good point.
and then he went quarterback at 189, Riley Leonard from Notre Dame.
Yep. Talked
We
about
already
that
talked
some.
about him briefly.
Not a
And
bad
then
pick.
232, he went safety Dan Jackson.
Tell me about him.
Um, I did not put what college Dan Jackson went to, and honestly, I
Yeah, I
couldn't tell
wouldn't
you
even
off
be able
the
to
top of my
guess.
head. I'm sure he was
No,
a great
I would
student,
guess
though.
if you would ask me, I would have said Dan Jackson is the weatherman for some
Yeah,
reason.
that's
Dan Jackson.
yeah. Dan
Okay.
Jackson's going to be doing weather in Indianapolis next season.
You know what? Just picking a safety off the list isn't a bad way to spend the seventh. So
No, at worst, he's just going to be good
yeah,
special teams guy.
overall great draft.
Mhm.
Obviously the first couple picks are the big shining stars, and
Oh
I think that's
yeah.
all they needed. I think the Colts are really well set up. I think that they're
Mhm.
obviously Richardson is kind of the tail of the tape right there.
Yeah.
But I think that when you got a guy like Scatabo as well to someone like Taylor already there, you already have a really good wide receiver infrastructure set up. Downs healthy is scary. I like that team. I think that they have a really good chance to meet in the playoffs with a few AFC West teams.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I actually like this draft for Mark too for the Colts. Again, like I think his success this upcoming season is going to be a lot really dependent on how Richardson does.
Yeah,
But I think he's continued to build out a roster around Richardson where if we get to the end of the season and that's the hole on your roster,
yeah.
you can put all your resources into going and getting a quarterback.
Arch Manning, baby. Yeah,
And
something.
I
Yeah,
know I know I told you
yeah,
the other night that Mark is a lifelong Colts fan,
yeah,
big Peyton Manning fan, and
yeah,
I haven't talked to him about it yet, but I have a feeling that he knows
yeah.
Arch is sitting out there next year, and that was part of why he
Good
waited on
bet. I
quarterback.
love it. That's what's
Um,
fun about doing something like this with people that are willing to kind of sit around and play and do it
yeah.
slow kind of way.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just fun. It's a fun way to kind of put yourself in the seat. I
Yeah,
like it.
I think it's going to be a
Yeah.
blast. One thing I'm going to do, um, either in a spreadsheet or if I create a website for this, is I'm going to track our draft classes through the years and like
Oh,
how
cool.
these
That was fun.
guys.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fun to look
Yeah.
after a few years to see like
Yeah.
how are we drafting? Are we doing better
Yeah.
or worse than real life people? Yeah.
Yeah. And when they make a movie about it and Kevin Costner's the GM that plays you, it'll really just come
Yeah.
out nice.
I want all my picks back.
Yeah. Oh man, I watch that movie before every draft every year. Anyways,
it's
I'm such a nerd.
it's a fun movie, but it's
It's
kind of
so
terrible.
stupid,
It's
but
kind of
I love it
cheesy. Yeah.
anyways. Yeah. All right, moving on. NFC, are we done with the AFC
Yeah,
now?
we're done with the AFC. Let's move on to the
Let's
NFC.
talk about Tampa and the Panthers, baby. The other
All right.
division rivals. Let's talk
Yeah,
about Tampa.
let's go to
Can I
Tampa.
just say I love that we went D right away there.
Yeah.
Cornerback, first cornerback taken was who was the first one he took?
Will Johnson, Michigan.
Will Johnson. I love that pick.
Mhm.
And I know all the analysts talked about how he had a bad year this year. The year before it was great and
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know. I think we sometimes forget these guys are playing such a violent sport where who knows what kind of injury might
Yeah.
slow you down, and
Yeah, he
stuff
could have
like
been
that.
playing
But
banged
I
up.
love that pick. He's gonna be playing on a good defense. You get a good secondary, and then he followed it up with Porter out of Iowa State in the second, right?
Yeah, he got Porter in the third.
In the third, so he didn't have
Pick
another pick until the third and got Porter. I love
sec
that.
second round he went linebacker Demetrius Knight from South Carolina.
Oh yeah, I actually loved all three of those picks. I
Yeah.
thought those were great. He got a super good linebacker, like top 3, 5, depending whose board you're looking at.
Yeah.
Got really good cornerbacks. That Porter in the third round has a ton of length, right?
Yeah.
I love length on a cornerback, and I think a team like Tampa really likes length on a cornerback.
Yep.
So he only drafted defensive players, didn't he?
Until his last pick. So
So
yeah,
who
the
else?
Bucks
Go
hit
down the line.
defense
Who
hard.
else? Yeah, who else? Who we got after Porter?
So after Porter, he went edge rusher David Walker out of Central Arkansas,
Which is also a good one.
which is that was
And
Tampa's
he's got a
actual
good
pick.
chance.
Yeah,
It was really okay. That's
yeah.
fascinating.
I so David Walker was a guy that I loved coming into this draft, but
Really?
I I knew I knew I had one shot to get him, and that was if my dad passed him at 121, and I didn't think he
And it
would.
happened.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it
why I
got to
love it.
121, and my
Love
dad
it.
took David Walker, and I was like, "You son of a." Yeah, I knew
Uh,
that was coming. I knew
yeah,
I didn't have a chance.
yeah. That was a good pick too. So now you have a little more bulk to the D. Definitely a depth piece. I don't think you're going to see Walker breaking any sack records in the first year or
Yeah,
anything.
I
But
no, he's probably gonna be a guy that's gonna have to adjust to the speed of the NFL coming from Central
but I
Arkansas.
don't think Tampa really needs a starter. I mean, they certainly would have taken a Jalen Walker or something like that if
Yeah,
it fallen to them. But like, they're all right. They got some guys.
yeah, I think so. I
They got some
actually
dudes.
I see a lot of parallels between Walker and Yaya Diaby, who they took.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah. And
I
he's
would say it
turned
was
out great.
2 years. Yeah, it was a great pick.
You bet.
Um, and then at 157, they went defensive tackle Ty Hamilton, Nebraska, I
Good pick.
believe. Yeah,
Ty
and
Hamilton is Ohio State, I think.
Ohio State. Oh,
Ty
yeah, you're right.
Robinson
You're
is
right.
Nebraska. Yep.
Hamilton is Ohio State. Um, yeah, I
That was a good pick.
he's another guy who's like solid against the run, a little bit
Yeah,
undersized, probably
you
fit
bet.
into like a 3-4 defensive
You
end.
bet.
And
Mhm.
that last pick, they took Caleb Lohner, the tight end,
Yeah,
Utah, I believe. I didn't know
good pick.
shit about this guy, and I looked him up, and he's 6'8". So I
Big
was
guy.
just like, you know what? Why not take a 6'8" guy in the
Hey,
seventh
why
round?
not? Why not?
Maybe he's a red zone weapon.
Yeah.
See what you got.
Utah. They love
Yeah,
big guys. All right. I thought it was a good draft. I think the offense needs a little love,
yeah,
but at the same time, like I don't necessarily know where I would say, oh, you shouldn't have done that pick. I really like the corners early, so I
yeah.
think he probably went to say, "Oh, you should have taken this there, that there." And I mean, it's not like the Bucks have. It's funny in real life because what do they address in the very first round, right? Wide
Right.
receiver, and I
Yeah.
mean, I think everyone was kind of surprised by that.
I
But
was. I was definitely surprised by it.
yeah, I was like, so I kind of liked that he went the opposite of that. Um, I liked it. You know, I once again I thought it was a good draft. I don't know where I would have done anything different. I always get nervous with a draft without linemen, but you know what? Now that I kind
Yeah.
of think about it, most of these have kind of. I mean, the Browns took Ursay, and is that it? Is that the only lineman that's been picked out of the teams we've talked about, other than you,
Um,
Zabel?
yeah, I think so. Like you took
Yeah,
what, Connor Colby late?
I took Colby late and Bo in the fifth or whatever,
Oh, that's
but
right.
you know what? We're also talking about some teams that kind of address their lines. Like, had the Bears not addressed their offensive line, I would have drafted only offensive line pretty much, you know. But
Right.
they did a lot in the offseason. And I think that a lot of these teams have already done that. Oh, Cincinnati took a lineman. They took Ratledge.
Oh,
But
Ratledge. Yeah, second round.
yeah, so, I mean, I think that that's one place where the Bucks might have a little depth problems as the year goes on, but again, I think they can roll the dice with that. I like that they got who they got.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Carolina.
Yeah, I like
Um,
Carolina's draft.
yeah, they took the offensive tackle Will Campbell from
I
LSU at
love
number 8.
that. At number 8, yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like, wow. I mean, some people had Campbell in conversation as the best, you know,
Yeah.
Mbu, right there. Like, I think Campbell could have easily been a top 3 pick, and I wouldn't have
Yeah.
batted an eye at that. So
No.
I to get him at 8, that was close to me. The Travis Hunter is just so good at 5, but to me, this
Yeah.
was like a really close, like value, just as good. Like that was a great pick. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm sure he was a little bit disappointed that McMillan
Yeah,
didn't carry till 8th like he did in real life, but if that wasn't going to happen, I think Will Campbell is about as good a consolation prize as you could ask.
that team better getting someone
Yeah.
like Campbell than even McMillan would have.
Yeah.
I really do.
He came back at 57 and took edge JT Tuimoloau from Ohio
Yeah,
State.
and I loved that. I mean, to
Hmm.
me, that was right about the time where like, okay, you're not getting a Pierce, you're not getting a you know, Walker or
Yeah.
Mike Hill. You know, you're not to get one of these top guys, but man, he's right up there. He's a guy that's going to serve you right away. I thought it was a great pick.
Yeah, I liked him a lot too. He's definitely a better run defender than he is a pass rusher. A little bit
Sure.
limited athletically, but
Yeah.
I mean rates really well against the run, and I think he's just going to be a solid defensive end for them for a while.
Yeah. I like that.
74, he came back and took what I think might actually be my favorite value for a Notre
Oh,
Dame player
interesting.
taken in this draft, Xavier Watts, safety.
Yes. 1,000% agree with that. 1,000% agree.
Yeah, I I mean, as far as Notre Dame players in this draft, I would actually rate him right up there with Benjamin Morrison. I liked him just
Yeah.
as much, and to get him in the third round, I thought was outstanding value. I didn't think he was going to last that
Yeah.
long with all these Notre
I
Dame fans
mean,
in this league.
Notre Dame safeties, man, because Kyle Hamilton was Notre Dame too,
Yeah,
right?
he
Like,
was
and
Notre
he went
Dame.
super late in real life too. And yeah, I was gonna ask you earlier because Watts was taken before Mukaba was, right? Would you have taken Watts
After,
if he was still on the
no,
board?
I took Makabu before Watts
Really,
by
you did? Okay,
about 15 picks.
15 picks.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like both of those guys. I didn't really have any reason to like the one over the other. I think Mukaba is going to be more versatile than
Yeah,
Watts, but I like Watts. I thought that was a great pick to get a stellar offensive lineman, follow it up with a defensive end that can start or at least play in most downs right away, and then to
yeah.
follow that up with the starting safety. What else has he got? Because he's killing it so far.
At 111, he took wide receiver Ty Felton from Maryland.
Yeah, interesting pick. Maryland always has super athletic guys, though, right?
Yeah.
Like they do. They just get some awesome athletes. And that Felton, there was a lot of love for him. I didn't watch Maryland, so I
No, I
can't
don't think
really
anybody
speak
did.
to it. No, so I can't speak to it. But
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I not a bad pick. You got to pick a receiver at that point.
yeah.
You know, you got to give Bryce Love something.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I feel like Felton, like they already have like a feeling, you know. So I mean, I think Felton could easily play in there right away.
Yeah,
And
they
in this wide receiver class, he's still got like a top, I don't know, a top 15 wide receiver.
yeah. He seems to kind of be stacking these wide receivers that are good after the catch. And like again, like that's kind
Mm,
of what Felton does. He's
hmm.
not like a great route runner, not an
Yeah,
elite separator, but
yeah,
he's just a slippery dude. Like you get him the ball and he makes
yeah,
plays. And
right.
I think Carolina's got a couple of those guys now. I'm blanking on the receiver that they took last year in the first round.
Xavier
From
Leggett.
yeah, Leggett, same kind of
Yep,
deal.
South Carolina. Yep,
Yeah,
yep. No, I like it. I think they got some players, and I also love that you're not throwing all your eggs in one basket because I think that there's a real chance that
mhm.
Love, right? What am I saying? Bryce, what's his name? Bryce.
Bryce Young.
Yeah, Bryce Young. I want to call him Love for some reason. Bryce Young. There's a really good chance he flops. Like, and all of a sudden, you know, everyone's like, "Oh, he had a great second half of the year," and I do. I say,
Yeah,
why
he did.
wouldn't you roll with him? They are
Yeah.
stuck with him. They might as well like hope for
Oh
the
yeah.
best. But I feel like he's also in a position where like he didn't like, you know, he doesn't have to keep going with him. If this year goes really bad, he could probably pivot. You know,
Right.
so I like that he's not only putting stock in the offense.
Yeah.
Who do you get after Felton?
He went C.J. West, defensive tackle from Indiana.
Yeah, yeah, I love that pick. I don't know why. I love that
Yeah.
Indiana was a much better team than people gave them credit for, and on both sides of the ball. That Signelli is something else, that
Yeah.
coach. And I like that Indiana team. Uh, you know, a guy that we don't never got any love, but that Rourke, I'm kind of interested to see how that
Yeah.
quarterback at Indiana does too. I think he got a lot less love. To me, he should be in the same conversation as Riley Leonard and Howard. And maybe I'm
Yeah.
crazy
I
for saying
totally
that,
agree.
but
I totally agree.
and he was kind of injured for a lot of the year too. So
Yeah.
that's another thing.
Yeah. I
But I
I
like
liked.
that CJ West.
I do too. He was a player that I definitely wanted. I
He's
was
excellent
disappointed.
hands.
I was disappointed to not come away with a second defensive tackle, and the two guys that I
Mm,
had really high on my list were C.J. West and Peebles from
Peebles.
Virginia
Yeah.
Tech. and
Nice.
user teams got me both times. Andy got me with
I
West,
love it.
and Scott
Yeah,
got me with Peebles. They
I love that.
scooped him up before they could get to me. Um, at 140, he went cornerback Mac McWilliams out of UCF. His reasoning for
Sure.
this pick was I like the name.
Good enough. There's a guy
So
in this draft, what his name was Tonka Hemingway from
Tonka Hemingway, yeah.
I was give me him. I think he was a defensive tackle, right,
Yeah, he
South
was.
Carolina? Yeah.
At 146, he came back and took linebacker Ruben Hippolyte the second from
Yep,
Maryland.
we were talking about that a little
We
earlier,
we
yep.
talked about him a little
The
bit
Bears took
earlier.
him in real life, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that is like a relative athletic score monster, but who knows if he can actually play football?
But you know what? I'll draft those guys any
Yeah,
day.
that's what we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
Is when you get late in
Absolutely.
the draft, you're looking for guys that are either freak athletes or are
Yes.
maybe undersized but still
Something.
produce. Yeah.
Absolutely.
163, he took tight end Oronde Gadsden the second, which is another pick I honestly liked because Gadsden's
Was
not
that
going to block for you.
USC? No, who did he take?
Syracuse.
Syracuse.
Yeah.
What position is that?
Tight end.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's kind of just like a huge slot receiver. He's not going to
Yeah,
block for you,
yeah,
but he's going to create matchup
yeah.
nightmares when you line him up in the slot.
Yeah, we need another Greg Olson on the Panthers. We
Yeah,
have the only name that I can think of since Greg Olson's left was that one guy, Thomas or something, that played tight end for a bit. Ian Thomas,
Ian
right?
Thomas. He's another
Yeah.
Indiana guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I wouldn't even pick that. So I like that. That's a good pick to me. That's a good place to pick a tight end. I like it.
And then he went Cameron Williams, offensive tackle, Texas at 230.
Yeah.
And
I actually
again,
loved that pick. That was
yeah,
actually one of my favorite. I was actually looking at that, and it was only a few picks before mine, and I was pretty fascinated that he was able to get, once again, not a guy that's expected to do a lot, but all of it's there. Like, all the
right.
potential is there, right? Yeah.
I am upside down.
Well,
Yeah.
sometimes we gotta get a little crazy. So I liked that pick too. Was that his last pick?
That was his last pick.
Yeah, great draft for him. I liked it. I thought it was good. I think that that would be a really fun matchup when the Panthers and the Bucks play in those games
Oh
because,
yeah.
right? That would be
Yeah.
good. I think we're going to see a defense that's going to really test Young, and yeah,
Mhm.
I also think that the Panthers are a good team to pick up. They're going to have a chance to pick up some wide receivers as the year goes on,
Oh yeah.
and right, like that's
Yeah.
something that you'll be able to address. Whereas I think they drafted some areas that would have been harder. So
And
I liked it.
it's one of those things we talked about whether or not um Charlie with Cincinnati would hold on to T. Higgins. It's one of those
Yeah,
things where maybe those two have a conversation at some point
right.
and about getting Higgins to Carolina to open up a little bit of money for Charlie to build up the rest of his roster.
I think that would be a really fun match of a trade.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
since we didn't catch it, do you want to just quick? I'd be. Why don't you just quickly say what you thought of the Bears draft? Just quickly run through it, and then we'll have
Yeah.
had all the users
Yeah. As we talked
because
about
we
that
talked about
before
it.
I started the
Yeah,
live stream. Um,
right.
but number 10, you took defensive tackle Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. 39, you took defensive tackle Derek Harmon from Oregon.
Because
We
The Bears didn't have any needs other
no,
defensive
no.
tackle. None.
Yeah, we talked about that. You said it was kind of like a best player available situation, and you wanted to
Yeah,
build that defensive line into just a monster unit. And whatever depth there is that you're
yeah,
not going to use, you can trade away for future picks. Maybe trade it for another piece that can help you out this year if you're in contention.
yeah.
At 41, you took running back Quinshawn Judkins out of Ohio State, which I
Mhm.
loved that pick.
Nice.
I think he's the second best running back in this class behind Genty. I really like that pick for you.
Yeah, I hope he is.
72, you took quarterback Azarie Thomas. Um,
Did you
I
think that
think
was a little early for someone like Thomas?
I I don't think it was early. I mean he doesn't really excite me, but
Yeah,
I mean there weren't many of those cornerbacks in this class. It was kind of a weak
yeah,
class for cornerbacks. Outside of Jade Barron, there wasn't a guy that was really in love with. So like
yeah,
I think it's a fine pick. I think at worst you probably got a guy who can play some slot corner.
yeah. I hear you
And
there.
you know that's got value. If you take that in the third round and that's what you get, that's fine.
Yeah, I think I felt like he was the best corner available. Again, I really liked his size. He has really long arms.
Uh
Again,
huh.
I just love that in a cornerback. And yeah, I just knew that I needed something more there. I wish talking about it's nowhere near the Benjamin Morrisons, the Will
Right.
Johnsons, the other guys, but
Yeah.
yeah,
At 138, you took offensive lineman Marcus Bowe from Purdue.
that was probably one of my favorite picks. I
Yeah.
I I liked him a lot. I really feel like he has so much size. Um, but maybe that won't pan out. Maybe he's too slow, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I think I don't know whether or not he's going to stick at offensive tackle. Probably
No, I doubt it.
depends on how much he can improve his pass blocking,
Yeah.
but he's already strong in the running game. I think if you slide him in to play guard, he's going to be just fine.
And I don't need him to start. I actually already have a pretty good starting
Yeah.
offensive line. I was really just trying to get some depth, but
Mhm.
you know me, I love a deep offensive line. If I can
Oh
have a
yeah.
couple starters and one starter on the bench, I love that.
Oh yeah.
Someone to come in later.
Yeah, you know that you're not gonna run with the same 5 offensive linemen the entire season. Somebody's gonna get hurt at
No,
some point, yeah.
absolutely.
164, you took safety Jalen Reed from Penn State, who you thought
Jalen
was
Reed.
you thought was Xavier Winston?
I was like,
Or
man,
Kevin
what a
Winston?
steal! I did. I totally did.
But, you know,
Yeah.
I actually
Eh.
I don't think it's that bad of a pick. I think
When he
I
wins defensive rookie of the year, we'll see who's
we're gonna
laughing.
laugh our asses off, yeah. 165, you took linebacker Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon.
And it was between him and Mondon. Um, but
Okay.
at the end of the day, I would have only taken Mondon because he was from Georgia. And
Yeah.
I actually do like the athletic scores for Bassa a little more. And,
Yeah.
I love a fast linebacker. I
Mhm.
love those linebackers that used to be safeties and decided to move up to linebacker and bulk up,
Yep.
like, they just have, like, that super crazy speed, and, I just to me, like, especially in today's NFL, like, you just gotta be able to cover. These tight ends are as good as wide
Yeah.
receivers, like, you gotta pretty much be a cornerback at that position, so, I don't know, I felt like that was good. I also felt like the Bears in real life took that Hippolyte, so I felt like
Mhm.
I needed to make a move at a linebacker position, and
Yeah.
I was happy that you got him there. I didn't have to spend a super high pick on someone.
Mhm. And I'll even say, like, I like the Bossa pick as well, and as you touched on, is a guy that used to be a safety.
Did he really? I didn't
Um,
know that.
yeah, he's got really good coverage skills for a linebacker, and I think that's something that actually pairs well with your 2 defensive tackles. 'Cause I mean,
Yeah, I
you've
hope
got
so.
those guys that are gonna create havoc, really help you stop the run, and now you've got a linebacker who's really strong in pass coverage that can help out on that end.
Yeah, I
I mean,
I
I
think if I look at the NFC Central, I see a lot of really even teams,
yeah,
right? I mean, the Vikings, Lions, and Packers are all playoff teams, and if there's anything I don't see across the board in that division, it's like awesome defensive line.
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So I just really wanted an awesome defensive line. I wasn't gonna get a defensive end to move the needle, so
Yeah.
why not just take 2 top 10 defensive tackles and see what happens?
Oh, yeah. Um, and then you went, wide receiver Xavier Restrepo at 223 out of Miami.
Yep. And
Again,
why not? It's like the guy
yeah.
just gets open in real life. I don't know if that'll happen in real life NFL. I
Right,
don't know if it'll
right.
happen in Madden for sure, but I you remember at first I was gonna take some guy out of Maryland, another Maryland guy that
Yeah.
I really don't know, and then I saw him there, and I was like, "I gotta go for it." I mean,
Yeah.
I think the thing that killed him, his 40 time was like 4.8
It
or
was
something
terrible,
terrible.
yeah.
It was bad. Like, I was
But
like, "Did he, like, walk? Like, what do you"
but again, every time you watch Miami, that dude is getting open and catching the ball, like,
like,
I think
huge plays too. Like,
yeah.
yeah, totally.
I think to some degree, you have to overlook that and just be like, "This is a guy who finds separation," and
Right. I mean, it's not like put Travis Kelce in a 40 time. It's not gonna be
yeah.
4.4.
No.
But what does he do? He's got a natural, I don't even know what you call it, charisma for the open field. Like, there's just guys that can do that, and it seems like Restrepo is one of those guys. At the same
Yeah.
time, I mean, he played in the ACC, and ACC kinda sucked, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that was why he did so good. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
And then your last pick at 240, you took the guard, Connor Colby from Iowa.
Yeah,
Just
just a big guard,
depth,
and
offensive line,
Iowa
yeah.
always has good linemen, so if
Yeah.
you're gonna take a guy from 7th, might as well just take a guy there, right?
Yep. Yeah, so I thought this was a really solid draft. I mean, I gave you a B plus, which was one of my
Perfect.
higher grades. And in particular, I just love that Quinshawn Judkins pick. I think that dude's going to be a
Really?
star for you.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really excited to make that pick. Him and Harmon were very close to each other, and,
Yeah.
it's so tough because there's always so many guys. So many of these guys we've talked about, like, I definitely thought about Watts there. I definitely thought about McCobb there. There's a lot of guys I thought about that other guys took, which is fun to me. That means that we're all kind of,
Yeah.
um, competitive and on similar wavelengths, which makes it fun. Yeah, I think it was really good. I did want to hit, I thought it was funny, the non-user team. I liked, because we were talking a little bit earlier about like how Philadelphia is just one of these teams that just drafts crazy good, Ravens in real
Right.
life really good. But in the game, like Philadelphia's first pick was like Hairston, which I don't love that pick. I didn't love it for the
Yeah.
Bills either. And it was just you look at like their draft and it just wasn't very good in the
It
game. It
wasn't.
was just funny.
No, I mean they took Ty Robinson, the
Yes.
Nebraska guy in
Yep, the
at
Nebraska guy.
96,
Yep.
and I was like, you know what, I like that pick.
Yeah.
I don't think I liked any of their other picks. Like
No, totally. No, I
this
remember
was
looking at that too. Otherwise, like there weren't a lot, even like the non-user picks, like were still pretty decent,
yeah.
and you know, but it'll be fun. Did you think that any team, any of the user picks really moved the needle for what you think their season's gonna look like?
Um man, I think the obvious one is Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
I think
I think the
that's
Browns.
yeah, the Browns I
I think
think
the
have
Browns, and
a
I
couple
will say
players.
I think the Panthers, and here's my sneaky thing. I think
Okay.
Will Campbell really allows they have
Mhm.
crazy good running backs on that team. I mean, in
Yeah.
real life, Brooks tore his ACL again, right? But
Right, he's going
you
to be
still have
healthy in
Chubb.
Madden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you still have Chubba Hubbard. You have they have another guy too. But like they've got some really good running backs, and I think like stocking up that line, I
Yeah.
think they have a chance to be a really good running team, and maybe you don't put so much on Young,
Yeah.
and like I think that that could really win that division. I
Mhm.
think it would be really interesting, but Yeah, it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun that I one of the things I love most is how much competition we have within divisions, even though I
Yeah.
don't have anyone in mind. Me and the Colts, we're off on our own, but,
Yeah, you're out on an island.
uh I love the AFC West that there's 3 of you, that'll
Yeah.
be really fun. We're talking about fun matchups through the year.
Oh, yeah.
I like that Bucks Panthers NFC South, that's
That's gonna be
fun.
fun.
Yeah, it'll just be fun, and I think we've done a lot of these with some of these guys over the years, so it'll just be
Yeah.
fun to kinda see how it plays out, who where players end up through the year, and then next year, where who gets the Manning sweepstakes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be really
It'll
fun.
be fun to see, the Browns and the Colts potentially fight to try to get up there for Arch Manning.
Absolutely. I know.
Uh,
Yeah,
one thing
no, very good.
one thing I've been keeping an eye on is there's kind of 2 teams that don't really have a quarterback right now, and I think both of them, to some degree, were waiting on Aaron Rodgers to make a decision.
Yeah.
Um, and in our draft, both of them took quarterbacks. So
Oh, interesting.
Pittsburgh took Tyler Shuck at number 83. Now, I think Aaron Rodgers is probably going to Pittsburgh,
Interesting.
so I
Yeah.
don't think he's going to be the starter there. But New Orleans doesn't really have a starting quarterback, and they took Shador Sanders at number
I was gonna
40 in our
say, yeah,
draft.
that's right.
So I have a feeling outside of Cam Ward, we're probably going to
Yeah.
see Shador Sanders play pretty early for the Saints.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Um,
Real early.
so we're over an hour here already. So
Yeah.
I think
A lot
instead
of
of running,
fun.
I think instead of running through like all the CPU teams,
Yeah.
um, I think probably just ask, were there any players that you kind of expected to get coming into this draft that you were high
Mhm.
on that you did not come away
Yeah.
with for whatever reason?
Yeah, I think this is a really small one, but
Yeah.
7th round, I was still looking at Luke Wacky, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
really surprised when I took someone else in the 7th round. I took Restrepo, and then someone like a CPU team, like 3 or 4 picks later, took Wacky, and I
It
was
was
just
Houston.
surprised.
It was
Yeah,
Houston. Yeah.
which is really low fruit, but that was kinda like a sneaky tight end pick I was gonna take because
Yeah.
those Iowa tight ends, I don't know if you've noticed, but they
There's a
always
lot of
do
them.
well in the
There's a lot
NFL,
of them in the NFL.
yeah. It's also, like, the only wide receiver that the Iowa Hawkeyes throw the ball to instead of
Yeah.
offense in real life, so, maybe that's why, but no, so that one really surprised me. I think we've kinda hit on some of them, like, the
Mhm.
CJ West one was a really
Yeah.
good pick early. Peebles, obviously, you said, I think those were the ones for me. What about you? Because you were
Well,
kind of the one watching it as it came through the most, running it.
yeah. Yeah. Because I was controlling it through PFF, so I got to
Mhm.
see exactly when the picks came through. But honestly, it was mostly user teams that took guys that
Yeah.
I really had my eye on. I talked about David Walker, CJ West, Peebles. There were 2 more that I thought I had a pretty good shot at coming away with, and it just didn't happen. One was, I believe, a 6th round pick in our draft. Chase Lunt, offensive tackle out of UConn.
Mm.
I liked
Yeah.
him quite a bit, and I thought I actually my last pick at the end of the 6th round, I took that kicker from Miami,
Mhm.
Borregales. I was going to take Lunt at that pick,
Mhm.
and he ended up going 11 picks ahead of that to Buffalo at 203.
Mhm.
And that one was I knew I was kind of taking a chance when I took Devin Neal that there was a chance that Lunt wouldn't get to me, but coming into the draft, I thought for sure I was going to end up with Lunt. And the other one was Siobhan Ravel, the corner
Mm.
from East Carolina.
Yep.
As I
Yep.
I liked him as maybe like an early 2nd round pick. It is. as he continued to drop as we went into kind of the draft season, I was like, "Oh, that's a guy that I would be happy to take late second round, early third round." And I got to that position, had 2 picks, and had a decision to make, and I just saw more versatility with Makuba. I had to get Darius Alexander. I had to have a defensive tackle,
Mhm.
and I knew, like, it probably wasn't a good chance that he was gonna still be there after I traded away my 3rd round pick, that he was still gonna
Yeah,
be there at
yeah,
109, and he was a guy that I went in thinking, like, "This is a guy that's gonna be a Baltimore Raven for me," and it just did
yeah,
not play out that way.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, those were probably the 2 guys that we hadn't talked about earlier that really kinda shocked me that I didn't wind up
yeah.
with.
I a lot of times in, like, mock drafts, I took one of those Colorado receivers super late, like that
Yeah,
Mister, whatever his name is, super speedy and Horn,
Horn,
and
yep,
both of them went in well, they went before my picks. So I think those were
yeah.
ones that I wasn't shocked that they were taken, but especially that not the horn, but the other one, I forget his name.
Wester,
West yeah. He went
Lejante Wester.
way sooner than I would have guessed. He's almost always one of those guys you would just find in the 7th round for the
Yeah,
picking, but not in this one, which is good.
no,
I think that was a good choice. Someone should take a more athletic receiver like that earlier. So the one other thing I would say is number 10. A big reason I took Nolan at 10,
yeah,
those first 10 picks, like, there was no, like, surprises. Like,
no,
really good guys were picked out of there. And, like, I would have gladly taken Will Campbell at 10, gladly. And that would
yeah,
have been a very different draft. Or not. It just would have been Will Campbell and then Harmon. But, I love it. But those first 10 picks, it was a little surprising to me, but,
mhm,
not overly, like, they were all good picks, but, yeah, no, I
yeah,
I thought overall, super fun draft. It was a super fun way to do it.
yeah,
Um, did you get good feedback from the other guys? They liked it?
yeah. I think everybody had fun with the draft. I know Scott was a little frustrated with how long it took, but that
Sure.
that had more to do with my schedule than anything. Um,
How
you
dare
know,
you.
we had the kiddo a lot this month, and I was just
Yeah.
super busy and had trouble just staying on top of things.
Well, if
I
any of
think,
us were doing it, it would have never gotten done.
yeah,
So, we appreciate it.
I think next year I'll probably start it. Um, we'll probably start our draft like a couple weeks before the actual draft.
Yeah, it'd be
'Cause that
cool, man.
also created a problem where I had to keep my laptop open and with the PFF window open for about a month
Mm,
straight in order to
yeah.
continue the draft,
That's
which
funny.
was not ideal.
I was wondering how you were doing that. That's
Yeah.
cool, huh? Interesting.
Um, but yeah, that I think everybody's just kind of curious to see how this goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm pretty excited about it because I think this fits better with my schedule right now than trying to fit several
I
seasons into one
we've
game.
done we've done so many different versions of this, and what I like about this way that you have it now is, number
Mhm.
one, I think that you've worked out a lot of the kinks, but we've worked out a lot of the kinks in the process,
Yeah.
and it puts a lot more thought into what you're actually doing
Yes.
than when you're like, "Well, we'll just have the next draft in a month anyways." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And we'll
Yeah.
just really kind of freewheeling it. Like now I feel a lot more like hesitant, or, like I'm
Yeah.
more intentional about my moves and stuff because I'm like, well, there's not going to be an super easy fix right around the corner or something.
Right.
So I like that aspect of it. I think that makes it fun.
I do too, and I was even thinking about that. Is we've run so many franchises now in Madden, and with their progression system, like it's super linear and predictable at this point.
Yeah.
Where, like, I think you and I can both look at a prospect in Madden and be like, that's going to be a pretty good player.
Yeah,
and you draft him, and you basically know how that player is going to progress
yeah,
because they all
totally.
progress the same way, and you know when that
Yeah,
player is going to regress because they all regress
yeah,
the same way.
yeah,
And
totally. Right.
I think this is going to be a lot more unpredictable,
Yeah, it'd be
and
fun.
honestly going to take a lot more thought, like you said, on how you're building your team
Yeah,
and what decisions you're making, and that's something I'm really looking forward to.
yeah, I think that would be fun. I think it would really. I like the user aspects. It's kind of like doing a mock draft on your own, right? It's like you can only do it that many times before you're like getting
Yeah.
bored of it, and stuff like that. And
Right.
like when you have users, it mixes it up. It makes it
Yeah.
more entertaining and such. And I think we have a really good amount. I like the mix of where our teams are and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it would be really fun. I think we all have really interesting teams too that are very different
Yeah.
stylistic.
Mhm.
So that's kind of fun. Yeah, I'm excited. Are we doing trade block only kind of thing?
No, I'm gonna open it up to where if you want me to shop for a certain position or a certain player,
Yeah, I
you
like
know,
that.
wide open.
Especially
One of the
since Madden, it's not like you can. They're a little better at making more realistic trades than like
yeah,
MLB is, isn't
yeah, MLB you can really kind of take advantage of.
it? Yeah, I
And
think
like
so.
to some extent that's fun because I mean if we're
Yeah,
gonna be watching our teams, we don't want to watch shit
yeah,
teams.
no,
But like at the same
no.
time, I think part of the appeal of this Madden League especially is like this is actually gonna be kind of a
Yeah, it's
challenge,
super
I
fun.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. No, no way. Yeah. I am not expect I'll be happy if I get a wild card in the playoffs
Yeah.
with that Bears team. I'm not expecting them to do much,
Yeah.
And but I think that if I had to get you're Super Bowl or bust. You should be.
Yeah.
I think Cincinnati I don't think they're gonna win the division. I think they'll get second in your division. I think
Mhm.
the Browns will get third. I think all three of you can make the playoffs, depending
Yeah.
on how the Brown quarterback play will be. That'll be
Right.
a little interesting. I kind of hope that they make a play for a different quarterback before the season
Yeah.
starts. But if they don't, I don't care either. I mean, I think it'd be fun either way. But it'd be interesting to see another face in there. I don't know. It'll be at the same time. I don't know what their plan is, and that's kind of what makes it fun too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this. Well, thanks for joining me to talk about this draft.
Absolutely. No, this was a
It's
blast,
good to see
man.
you.
No, you bet. I can't wait to
And
see it. Let's get, what do you think? Like 1,000 likes in an hour or something like that?
oh, at least, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
I'm
looking
expecting to
forward.
basically just be a full-time analyst for all the Madden games anyway.
Yeah, our careers are gonna take off from here.
Yeah. I already have an email ready for my boss 2 weeks in, right there, ready to push send.
Yeah, you're gonna wake up tomorrow morning with a Wikipedia page.
I mean, I saw 5 years at one time during this, so I mean, who knows what the outside world's
They
already
didn't
thinking.
last very long, but they were there.
Yeah, they were like, "What the fuck are these guys talking about their Madden?" I can't wait to tell my wife what I was doing for the last hour and a half. What are
Oh
you
yeah, she's
doing?
gonna be excited. She's like, "What?"
Talking to my cousin about this fake football thing we do. She thinks it's all fake anyways, and she's probably
Oh
right,
yeah, she won't
so
know the
there
difference.
we go. Alright.
Well,
Alright,
I'm
hey,
looking.
always good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you. You take care.
Alright, talk to you later, man.
Bye.